She walked into the boutique with nothing but kindness in her smile and a small, worn-out purse hanging from her shoulder. The sales assistants looked her up and down, their eyes filled with silent judgment. Her clothes were simple, her demeanor quiet, but she wasn't there to impress anyone. She just wanted to find a jade necklace, something meaningful for someone special. But instead of help, she was met with sneers. The manager didn't even bother hiding her disdain. Within minutes, the woman was humiliated, insulted, and thrown out like she didn't belong, like she wasn't worth even standing. On their marble floors, what they didn't know was that she wasn't just some random woman off the street. And she wasn't alone in this world. Behind her quiet nature was a powerful truth she never felt the need to show off. She was engaged to a man who didn't care about appearances or wealth because he had all of it. He was a billionaire, known for turning small businesses into empires, and he adored her more than anything. When he found out how she'd been treated, everything changed. The boutique's lights were still glowing that evening when a black car pulled up outside. Staff gathered near the window, confused, curious. No one could have expected what would happen next. Because this wasn't just about revenge, it was about showing the world who she really was. And the moment her fiancé walked through those doors, the same people who had thrown her out would soon be begging for forgiveness. But the real twist? It wasn't just about justice. He wasn't just there to defend her honor. He was about to hand her something no one in that boutique could have imagined: power, status, and a title that would change everything. Her name was Eliza. She grew up in a quiet neighborhood where people valued respect more than designer clothes. Her father ran a small repair shop. Her mother baked cakes for neighbors on weekends. Life wasn't easy, but it was honest. Eliza never cared for flashy things. She believed in hard work, kindness, and staying grounded. But the world outside didn't always work the same way. Especially not places like Jade Boutique, where people judged you before you even spoke. A word she had met Adrian at a charity event. He was nothing like the headlines made him seem. Yes, he owned companies, sat in boardrooms, and had more money than anyone she'd ever met but with her. He was just a man who listened, who cared, who saw beyond the surface. Their relationship was private, by choice. Eliza never liked attention, and Adrian respected that. So when she walked into that boutique alone, no one had any clue who she really was. Inside the boutique, after she was thrown out, the staff laughed behind her back. They didn't know they were laughing at the future CEO. Adrian had been on a call when Eliza texted him just 3 words: "I've been humiliated." He canceled his meeting instantly. When he arrived, the room shifted. No one recognized him. At first, he wasn't in a suit. No cameras. Just a calm expression that carried quiet authority. The same staff who had mocked Eliza moments ago stood frozen, confused. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His words, quiet and measured, landed harder than any shouting ever could. And when he asked to speak to the boutique's owner, a cold silence spread, because what he was about to do next wasn't just personal. It would send shockwaves through the entire luxury fashion world. The boutique manager, Clarice, stepped forward with a nervous smile, suddenly unsure of herself. Just an hour ago, she'd felt powerful, important, even proud for putting someone like Eliza in her place. Now, with Adrian standing in front of her, she sensed something was deeply wrong. He didn't introduce himself, but his presence spoke louder than any title. Behind him, his assistant quietly handed over a fila-thick folder stamped with legal documents. Clarice's eyes widened when she saw the logo. This wasn't just a customer complaint. It was something much bigger. As Adrian waited in silence, the boutique staff exchanged uneasy glances. Rumors spread quickly. Some whispered that the boutique might be under acquisition. Others speculated that the man standing before them was One of the biggest investors in the parent fashion group, whispers that soon became fears. But Adrian said nothing about that. He simply asked where the woman who had been thrown out was. Clarice stumbled over her words, trying to explain. Her voice cracked, her usual confidence gone. Meanwhile, Eliza stood outside, watching everything unfold through the glass. She didn't want revenge. She didn't want anyone to beg or grovel. All she ever wanted was to be treated with respect. But something deeper was stirring now. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person who'd ever been looked down on because they didn't fit someone else's idea of wealth or beauty in the background. A second conflict was quietly growing. The boutique's owner, Camille, was watching from her office upstairs. She had built Jade Boutique from scratch, but over time, her business had become cold and exclusive, chasing profits over people. Now, with her empire at risk and Adrian asking questions, she had a choice to make. But what she didn't know was that Eliza wasn't just there to witness a shakeup. She was going to be part of it. Camille slowly descended the staircase, her heels clicking sharply against the boutique floor. The atmosphere had shifted from glossy confidence to tight-chested silence. She didn't recognize Eliza Wywood. To her, the woman standing quietly near the entrance looked like anyone else who didn't belong in her carefully curated world. But Camille recognized Adrian immediately. Her breath caught. The same man who had once walked out of a deal with her years ago now stood in her boutique, calm, firm, and unreadable. Adrian turned his gaze to her, eyes steady. "Camille," he said quietly, "we need to talk." By now, whispers had turned to full-blown panic in the back rooms. Employees were checking emails, wondering if the company was being sold, if they were about to lose their jobs. Clarice clutched her hands nervously, realizing the decisions she'd made out of pride could cost her more than her position. She wanted to speak, to explain, to apologize. But her voice wouldn't come. Camille led Adrian into the private meeting room, tension thick in the air. Eliza stood outside, watching them disappear behind the frosted glass. She felt a mix of emotions, nervousness, disbelief, and something unfamiliar. Power, not the loud kind, but the kind that grows quietly when someone finally sees your worth. Inside the meeting room, Camille sat down slowly. "Is this about the deal from before?" she asked, trying to mask her worry. "No," Adrian replied. "It's about someone you threw out. Hey, and about the future of this place." Outside the room, Eliza's phone buzzed. A message from Adrian appeared. "Get ready. You're walking back in with me." She stared at the message, her heart pounding. Everyone who had looked through her, who had dismissed her like dust on polished marble, was about to see her in. A light they never expected. And none of them were ready for what would come next. Eliza took a deep breath and stepped back inside. The same boutique that had once treated her like she was invisible. Now every pair of eyes turned toward her, confusion flickering into recognition. Clarice's face went pale, and one of the younger employees whispered, "Isn't that the woman we kicked out?" No one moved. No one dared. But what no one expected, what even Adrian hadn't seen coming, was what Camille pulled from her desk drawer in that private room. A signed document, fresh ink, still drying. "You think you're taking this place from me?" she said, with a tight smile. "I already sold controlling shares, this morning." Her voice was calm, but there was a glint of desperation behind her eyes. "To a rival investor. Someone who's not so fond of you." Adrian stared at the papers, then slowly leaned back in his chair, tension building in his jaw. The boutique wasn't just a place Eliza had been insulted, was meant to be the first public step in something bigger. A rebranding, a shift toward inclusivity. Eliza as CEO was just the beginning of a chain reaction he had planned. And now, someone else was in control. Someone he didn't trust. Outside the room, Eliza sensed something was off. Adrian's message had been clear, but now he wasn't coming out. She edged closer to the glass, trying to read their faces. Just then, a sleek woman in a power suit entered the boutique, flanked by two assistants. She moved confidently, straight past the front desk. A former partner of Adrienne, Serena Leclerc, known for her ruthless takeovers and colder business tactics, she and Adrian had history. And now she owned the boutique. Eliza's heart pounded again, not with fear this time, but fire. Because Serena's arrival meant one thing: this was no longer just about a necklace or a title. It was war. And Eliza was right in the center of it. Serena walked into the meeting room like she already owned the place, which, legally, she now did. Camille stepped back with a smug look, thinking she had saved herself by selling the boutique at the last minute. Adrian stood up, eyes locked on Serena, his voice calm but sharp. "You did this on purpose." Serena smiled, unbothered. "It's just business, Adrian. You disappeared from the fashion world, and I filled the space. You thought you could turn this boutique into your next big statement with your fiancé as a symbol of your new vision. But I've already signed the papers. Jade Boutique is mine now." Eliza listened from outside the door, each word hitting her like a wave. But instead of shrinking back, she stepped inside. "So you bought the place," she said, her voice steady. "But do you know what you bought?" Serena turned, amused. "A boutique with loyal clients and a polished brand." Adrian reached into his coat and pulled out another folder, placing it firmly on the table. "Not anymore," he said. "Before you signed that deal, I filed a restructuring proposal that was conditionally accepted. Jade Boutique's brand licensing, digital assets, and e-commerce platform were already separated. You may own the building and the name, but not the identity." Serena's face stiffened. "What are you talking about?" Eliza stepped forward. "You bought a name. I am the brand now." It clicked for everyone in the room. The future of the boutique wasn't in its past. Gloriette was in the new direction Adrian and Eliza had quietly built behind the scenes. The designs, the message, the growing online movement, it was already shifting. Jade Boutique would fade. And in its place, a new label would rise, one where Eliza's story led the way, as Serena stood speechless. The final twist hit. Adrian turned to Eliza and said, "Ready to launch the new flagship?" Eliza smiled, calm and confident. "Let's open the doors." Within weeks, the shift was impossible to ignore. The old Jade Boutique started losing foot traffic as the buzz around Eliza's new brand exploded across social media. Influencers, everyday women, and even former boutique customers began following the story of the simple woman turned CEO. Eliza's message of elegance without ego, style without status, struck a chord. The brand wasn't just about fashion. It stood for second chances, dignity, and quiet strength. Eliza named the new venture Elora. Every product told a story. Every collection inspired by her own journey. Instead of cold storefronts, the new flagship store opened its doors with warmth, welcoming people from all walks of life. Clarice, once the harsh boutique manager, applied for a position. Eliza surprised everyone by giving her a chance, not because she forgot the past, but because she believed in growth. Camille quietly sold off her remaining shares and left the fashion world behind. As for Serena, she tried to compete, but the public had already chosen who to follow. Her version of fashion felt outdated next to Eliza's authenticity. Behind it all, Adrian stayed by Eliza's side, not as the billionaire behind the scenes, but as a partner who believed in her vision. He never tried to take the spotlight, only supported her as she claimed her own. The story that began with humiliation ended with transformation. Eliza never chased power, but when it found her, she used it to lift others. And maybe that's what true success looks like, not just building an empire, but changing what an empire stands for. In the end, she didn't just walk back into the boutique, she walked into her purpose. And from that day on, no one ever dared to question what a simple woman could become.